everybody, welcome back to Debate Hub. I had to cheat because I still haven't gotten that thing working yet. But hey, you know what? It worked for what it was. Welcome back. I am Chesh, your master debater. And I am here with Robert and Sam, and I am so excited to be talking about this. I think this is going to be a really, really fun conversation. It was already fun in the background. So let's start with Sam. Sam, how you doing? It's been a while since you've been here.
It has been a while. I'm fine. I'm trying a new skincare product, which you can probably tell is destroying me actively. But yeah, I'm doing well for the most part, all things considered, but can't complain.
Yeah, and you want to tell
We're about to complain. We're about to complain.
We're going to complain. You want to tell the lovely people who you are and what you're about?
Yeah, sure. We're probably allowed to swear here, right?
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
Definitely not.
Look at this branding. So, you think this branding is PG
I was
branding?
about to say that. Yeah, it is. I mean, that's when I started. Anyways, my name is Sam Comerford. I am a purveyor of shitty ideas on Twitter. And you can find me there. I also run the game show Spontaneum, I guess. I don't really want to call it an actual play at this point.
It's
a game show. It's a game show. We around. And I also wrote a book of shitty ideas, which is almost physical. We're so fucking close. I almost have proof for it. So if you were on the Patreon or the Kickstarter for that, we are getting so close. I promise. I am so jazzed.
Why aren't actual plays called game shows?
I don't know. They missed opportunity.
Because
I guess it's taken. I guess it would just be confusing.
People don't want to be in the same category as Steve Harvey. But also
speak for yourself.
I don't want to be. No, I don't. I don't want to be in the same category as Steve Harvey.
I think he's wildly charismatic. I would love to be in the same category as Steve Harvey.
Ooh.
Hey, listen, you can
a little bit deeper into that man.
Do I not know enough? Do I not want that association?
You don't want that association. Trust me.
You can be charismatic.
I don't know. Whatever I said, I take it back.
You can be charismatic and still have some really bad takes.
Yeah. He's got garbage takes. But also he says he tries to avoid the word penis on the air. He tries to not say the word penis and gets really disappointed when he is like, what's the word for a male phallus? And someone says penis, and he's like, oh, come on, guys, that's not what I was talking about. Yeah, but I run the ether log. It's a good time. Well, we're figuring that one out. We're gonna see where that one goes. Post 5e collapse. And I'm doing some other projects right now that I can't really talk about quite yet. So yeah.
Every time you come here, you have a new. Every time you're here, you have a new project you're working on. Last time it was Spontaneum.
Yeah, it's not even TTRPG related. I'll talk about it. I'm writing a fiction book, and I'm very excited about it.
I'm very convincing, as you can see.
Thank you.
What's it about?
Okay, that I can't actually spill.
Okay.
Because if I start ranting about it, I'll be very excited. And I won't be able to stop. And I would rather talk about the current calamity that is upon us.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. Robert, how are you? Who are you? And what's going on?
Hi, I'm Rob. I am RobertGReeve everywhere because this one time, like 2-ish years ago, when I had a big thing that went viral, it went under my full real name, so now I'm stuck with it. I can't be Rob to anybody. I'm Robert to everybody now.
We're gonna call you Rob then. I'm gonna change this right now. Can't stop me.
No, it's fine. Leave it. It's my screen name everywhere. So I'm stuck with it. Whatever. I try my hardest to have shittier ideas on Twitter than Sam does, and I often succeed, I think.
Ooh.
Except the thing is, Sam's shitty ideas are fun, and mine aren't.
Say that to my face, Robert. Say that to my fucking face.
Last time I hung out with you, Sam, it was on Spontaneum, and I brought and I realized I played a goblin wizard, and I realized wizard terrible for a one shot. Like I was like, okay, yes. I'm level 19. I've got a wizard. I took the clone spell. If Sam kills me mid-session, I'm gonna pull out a twist on him, where I'm just gonna wake up again.
Uno reverse.
And then I was like, everything here is all prep, and this character begins and ends in a 90-minute span. So womp. Next time I'm just gonna play a monk.
I also brought a goblin when I went to go play.
That's your whole brand, though.
It is my brand. Goblin. It is on brand. But I played a bard, and we got level 20, I think, is what we got.
Yeah, maybe I hate the high level
because we rolled a d20 at the end of our session. We were 19, and then we rolled a 20.
Oh, so you were on right before me.
That is likely.
I think so.
That's very likely. Because, what?
It was Murphy.
I can't remember. Yeah, it was Murphy. I remember it being Murphy. I remember who you were with in that game, but I remember it being very chaotic.
I think it was Thorn and Joe.
Yes.
And he played a sorcerer. Played the sorcerer.
Who was with you guys playing a sorcerer? I can't remember. So many people are on this damn show.
I was with I was with Jeremy from Three Black Halflings.
Oh, that was a good one at the like carnival,
the amusement
or whatever,
park.
If I remember correctly. The amusement park. Yes.
Yeah.
All right.
So that was a good one.
I do remember that.
Let's get started and talk about talk about our situation. So for anybody who doesn't know, I have been covering this a little bit. So for anybody who doesn't know, Wizards has decided to light themselves on fire for no reason, apparently. It really does seem like a whole lot of just bad PR and marketing decisions all in a row. But basically they wanted to change the open gaming license and basically be what people are reading as far more restrictive. So, what do you guys think? And how is that affecting your projects?
Yeah. So I am a student of advertising and public relations. I go to college for that. The devil's creative writing. But reading this and kind of looking at it in my studies has been very interesting, because looking at especially Wizards' response to this, it's a nightmare. Because a lot of the stuff is obviously very negatively construed because it's Wizards of the Coast and their reputation's not so great, and Hasbro's is even worse, and then Hasbro's parent company, BlackRock, is even worse than that. So it's just kind of this chain of shit. But when Wizards of the Coast kind of put out their little statement, and they're like, oh yeah, we own your IP, right? And that was kind of the way that people sort of took that one sort of phrase. I'm obviously paraphrasing it negatively here, but what I believe it might have meant, if I'm to play devil's advocate here for a second, is that we want you to go through our system so that if we make something and you try to sue us for it on the grounds of intellectual property theft, you can't, because even if it is something similar, we're just trying to cover our ass. And I can understand that from a business standpoint, but the way they went about it was so fucking piss poor. Like, oh, whoopsie, we rolled a nat 1, sorry. But you know what? We won, guys. Didn't we all win in this situation? And it's so tone deaf, and it's wild to think that there's almost no way that went through more than one person. I can't believe it. I cannot put it. I typically like to think I'm an empathetic
They definitely
person.
committed to the brand by making a natural 1 joke.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it was not the time.
It was a bad joke. The thing that I asked when I read it, they said, we rolled a nat 1, and my response was, on what check? What were you checking for, sir and or madam or other?
You know what? I'm gonna say a word that I don't like to use. It was cringe. It was real fucking cringe. I don't like using that word because I'm cringe. I play tabletop role-playing games most of the time. That's pretty cringe to a lot of people. But my God, guys, come on. At least a little thread of professionalism in this absolute PR shitstorm. Like, it's baffling. It's honestly baffling.
The PR is pretty across the board viewed as not very good. Rob, what do you think?
I have been pretty quiet on this, because honestly, I am not nearly as mad as most people are. I think that the open gaming license, the word open was always a little bit of a sleight of hand, because when we look at the products that Wizards sells, player-facing products always outsell DM-facing products, like an adventure module, because only one person at the table needs to buy the adventure module, and it's the Dungeon Master. And for that reason, Wizards used the open gaming license to like subsidize the riskier ventures, which are like generally adventures. It offsets that cost, that burden, by having people in the community make it. And then there's a symbiosis. Like I've heard a lot of people say like Wizards gets so much free marketing out of third-party products coming out of the open gaming license. But the truth is, like, at the same time, those creators get access to what was, until maybe this week, the largest like sort of centralized database of like players, like where you just had access to so many more players than if you were making something for Pathfinder. So I think like there was an incentive on both sides, and I think messing with that at any point is a gamble, and that Hasbro must have had different incentives to want to change things than the Dungeons and Dragons game itself. That's right. And I think it gets way more into like their sense of like building a brand empire. Looking at like Hasbro owns Transformers. You have all these Transformers movies.
Where's our Transformers D&D, Hasbro?
We got Transformers Magic cards.
Where is our map of Cybertron?
Yeah, wasn't there a secret lair that had like Transformers cards in it?
Yep.
I'm almost positive.
Yep,
yeah. I'm not a magic guy. I don't touch magic.
I'm not a magic guy either. I know jack shit about magic.
All of my roommates are crazy magic people. So yeah, I was opening some packs with them. Not that I paid for, but I was helping them open packs, and I pulled a Megatron, and I was just like, hey.
I have no idea if that's rare or expensive.
Yeah, I don't know either. I just thought it was funny. Sorry, Sam, go ahead.
So I think the OGL.
Oh, go ahead.
Like cracking down on the OGL is more about like the brand considerations, and not necessarily like closing off like access to the IP, because you never really had that under the OGL in the first place. Yeah. But distancing themselves from riskier content.
That is certainly part of it. They mentioned
is a big part of it.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of things. Just to address that right there, they kind of use that as almost a shield in their sort of addressing of this leak. Like, oh, this is for your betterment. And I think that really didn't help them with the sort of condescending tone that they took with this. Like, you're children, you don't understand our business. You're just here to play games. And I mean, that sort of sucks. But I think what I've heard from a lot of people is that when when the cards started to fall in place was when D&D acquired D&D Beyond. That was like they are starting to make moves to sort of monopolize the TTRPG space by having this very sort of full umbrella grasp of basically all sides of the tools, the content engine, and additionally the movie coming out. I think if they can get sales for that and stuff and prove that people are interested enough to go see that and to reinvigorate the brand the way kind of Stranger Things did and whatnot, is I think something they also have taken a gamble on as well. So I think they're trying to. This is conjecture. I'm no expert by any sense, but if I was to take a wild guess, they're trying to, in a sense, cycle out the old community who is used to the OGL and whatnot, and making the content for this company, and try to get these new fans in who never had that experience in the first place. So they've always been used to being under this one flag of, oh, I'm going to get into D&D. I saw the movie. It was funny. It was quirky. Chris Pine was hot. What else is new? And then
were people just sleeping on Hugh Grant? Like, are we sleeping on Hugh Grant?
Hugh Grant's hot in like a Rat Man way. He's like a
his entire press circuit. There's all these things about him just cracking S&M jokes endlessly. It's my favorite part.
I'm really hoping, like,
he's leaning into daddy.
If I was gonna go see the movie, I'm really thinking that probably has something to do with his character and the way his character's set up.
Rogue. Yeah, really, that's all I have to say about the OGL. Again, I'm not an expert. I literally am a shit poster, so my opinion shouldn't hold too much weight other than anecdotal and experiential evidence. But one thing I do want to say, like, straight up to people who are watching this: if you are mad at the OGL, completely understand. It's a poo-poo butthole move. Please do not attack any of the employees at Wizards of the Coast. A lot of them, I'd say the vast majority of them, are not involved with this, and they're just trying to make a game that they love.
It does seem like they got stuck in middle management territory.
Yeah, and especially people at D&D Beyond who got subsumed and then used as a fucking human shield.
Why did that? I read when I was reading that post. Okay, so the response that they gave after all of this started leaking out there. The response not only being on the original post back in December, both came from D&D Beyond, and I was like, why are you cowards doing this from Beyond? And to me it just read like it was ghostwritten by Team Rocket. Because, like, they were like, oh, we have to protect our brand and all the gamers out there from racists. And I'm just like, to protect the world from devastation, we have to protect everybody from fascists by being fascist.
Well, I have a different take on that about why it's coming from D&D Beyond.
Yeah, please.
And I think that's because that's actually where more of the readership is. I think they're doing that to have a bigger reach. Because when they had two Discords, they had a D&D Beyond Discord and they had a D&D Discord, and they merged them into one. And the one that they kept was the D&D Beyond Discord. They retired the D&D Discord.
D&D Beyond had a better reputation.
Right. Yeah. So I think that it could be that we're hearing about these things through D&D Beyond, because I don't know like what analytics they might have, but like they might believe that like that audience is bigger or like more engaged with what's actually going on. I don't know.
Yeah.
You got your hand up.
Yeah, I do. I'm used to a classroom setting. I'm sorry. But I think...
Who's the teacher?
Who's the teacher? You, I suppose. You're moderating the fucking panel. Yeah. But it's... I don't understand. Like, I can get metrics and whatnot. I'm wanting to go entirely based on the numbers. That makes sense. But I don't think... I find it weird that they wouldn't see them use, like, they wouldn't see the take that, oh, they're using D&D Beyond as a human shield. Like, that felt like the very obvious frontward like them just retweeting it felt disingenuous, I guess. Like, if they had tweeted the same tweet on both accounts, that would have been different. That would have been very different.
Like post both
because
places.
It's coming from because then you get the legitimacy of the original D&D account, which is what a lot of people look for, and the response and whatnot. And then you also get the reach of D&D Beyond, which is the new kid on the block. So, I mean, obviously hindsight's 2020. You can't really, it's hard to calculate intention, especially when you get shit like this going on. But it's just, yeah, I don't know.
I think D&D Beyond is the front door to the digital Dungeons and Dragons experience in a way that like the Wizards website isn't, because the Wizards website, it's got like sales, it's got press releases, but like the place people go online to play D&D is D&D Beyond. So like from a messaging strategy, it doesn't really surprise me that they like, I think when we're like, oh wow, why did that come out of the D&D Beyond Twitter account? Like, I think that's an extremely Twitter perspective of us to have.
That's fair.
That's fair.
That's fair.
Thermally online moment.
Yeah, I think it makes sense from like who is engaging with like D&D Beyond outside of Twitter on the entire internet. And if Twitter is just sort of like the PR mouthpiece of like that entire platform, then to me it makes a little more sense it came from D&D Beyond.
I mean, you can also kind of go with the argument as well that a lot of those users wouldn't have seen the online backlash on YouTube and Twitter inherently, so they'd be getting this message with no context.
Yeah.
So that's another potential problem as well. So I agree with you. Like, I don't think you're wrong. I just think I feel like there's no good way to handle this after it kind of blew up, because the only good way to handle it would have been like, whoops, and they didn't do that.
Yeah.
They took a slightly smarmy approach to the whoops.
Yeah. It wasn't like a direct apology. That I mean, it can don't get me wrong, it can come across as disingenuous, but I mean, it wouldn't have hurt. like the attempt to use the jargon and stuff like that felt so very like, how do you do, fellow kids? And it just it felt really insulting and demeaning. I know that's a lot coming from a gamer like myself, but it's just, I don't know. It felt like this has been fumbled.
I think that a lot of that has to do entirely with the way it's handled from a PR standpoint. When I was reading through the OGL and 1.1a with their proposed changes, I'm like, most of this is standard for most businesses. And the issue I found was that they had set a precedent, and then the way they kind of let everybody know about it was underhanded. And like, there would have been no reason to do that, to be honest.
So they did, and if you've been with us for a minute in the D&D world, a similar thing kind of happened with 4th edition, but I think it's a little different too. The open gaming license was under 3.5, and when they transitioned to 4th edition, then like Pathfinder had just come up, and they were like, oh, we need to close down the open gaming license because it's facilitating a direct competitor. And it turns out that like making that move and switching to a more restrictive gaming license actually elevated that direct competitor only further. Like some years, Pathfinder outsold Dungeons and Dragons during the 4E years.
Yeah.
And the thing that shot them in the foot was they didn't reach out to third-party publishers. They sprung it on third-party publishers. And I think a lot of people see what's happening now as that same mistake repeated again. And I actually don't think that's the case, because this time they did reach out to third-party publishers, but the industry changed, and the people they didn't reach out to this time are this whole new category of publishers that didn't exist before, and those are Patreon publishers.
Yep.
And Kickstarters. This non-traditional publishing experience is where a lot of the hashtag open D&D thing rose up from.
Yeah.
Like, all the traditional third-party publishers were much more conservative in their like opening responses about this. They waited to see if this was going to stick, or if it was just a Twitter thing or whatever. And then like once it became obvious that this was a way bigger thing, that's when the traditional third-party publishers started speaking up. And I think that's kind of telling there. I think that D&D thought that that Wizards thought that they saw the problem with 4th edition and corrected for it by trying to sign on the third-party publishers directly ahead of time to buy them in this time. And I think the misstep was not anticipating Patreon publishers.
Whoever the PR team is, assuming that they even had a say in some of this, because some of this does seem like it has bypassed a PR team that is being forced through. They need to start watching Elon Musk and not doing those things.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of sort of brand arrogance with Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, we're not a TTRPG. We are the world's greatest role game.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it's sort of that assumption of like superiority that really made them think like, okay, this step makes sense. I mean, Pathfinder's not in fucking Stranger Things. They don't have that leg up that we do.
Technically, it's also like just the Roll20 system because they don't use the standard terminology.
Right.
For everything.
I mean,
it's not really technically.
But they say
D&D
Dungeons
either.
and Dragons.
Oh, do they?
But they say Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
They don't say.
You tell I haven't watched it.
Hey, do you want to go?
How have you not
listen to some Hall and Oates and play some Powered by the Apocalypse? No.
Right.
You're watching those kids playing Paranoia.
10 Candles would be interesting to see the cast of Stranger Things. But it's so big.
Those kids, when that show hits the 90s, those kids are playing Vampire, like for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Like the 90s was like peak Vampire the Masquerade. Those kids are so traumatized, they're all going to turn into goths. Like...
Yep.
Before my time. But yeah.
The baby.
God, I'm old. I'm the old man on this call.
Yeah.
Sam's just a baby.
I don't remember 9/11, folks. I was 11 months old.
When I was bartending, that was my check for a fake ID question. Is I would ask you like,
really?
Yeah, that was where were you when 9/11 happened? And
what a way to
like
start
you would hand me
your
a fake
night.
ID, and then they'd be like, then they'd have to do like mental math, and I'm like, you're doing math. You don't know your real answer that matches up with your fake ID's birthday. I got you.
Yeah.
And it stopped working because kids like you are too young to remember now.
Hey, guess what?
And then I retired from bartending.
Surprise!
Hello.
What's
up? We got
How are you?
Good. How are you? Welcome to Debate Hub.
Thank you. We
Definitely
just got back from our day jobs,
Ooh.
which, believe it or not, is not Wizards of the Coast.
Bullshit.
No way.
So Jesse and Laura have joined us. Jesse, Laura, would you like to explain who you guys are and what you do?
Laura, what are you?
I am Laura. I used to cosplay, but mostly now I just yell at dudes on the internet.
It is fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I still cosplay, and I do TTRPG shit, and I do 3D modeling, and I also yell at dudes on the internet, but less effectively.
We've been chatting about the OGL and what we sort of thought Wizards' plans were or what they were doing and how that's...
what's that?
How's that gone over?
You've not heard?
No.
I think you guys all know each other, right?
I know Rob online.
Biblically.
No.
Biblically. Not biblically.
Oh,
and
interesting.
I know
the night is young.
I don't know if I know Sam. Sam, do you go by something different on Twitter? Hi.
Sam goes by all the cute things on Twitter.
All the cute things. Yeah, I think we've chatted before, very on like a passing level. But Jesse has been on Spontaneum way back a few months ago.
Okay.
So I've interacted. This is not my corner of the tabletop sphere, so it's nice to get to meet y'all a bit more than I typically would. But, yeah, thank you, Chesh.
Oh, I'm a helper.
This is my first time breaking bread with you guys, but we've been on the Twitter water cooler before.
The Twitter water cooler.
Yeah.
The Twitter cooler.
Wait.
That sounds...
You're gonna get demonetized. You can't say words like that on YouTube anymore.
Fuck your money, Chesh.
To be fair, this is... welcome to Definitely Not Pornhub, where we're talking about water heaters.
Yeah, the biblical sense of
watering holes. So, Jesse, Laura, what do you think about what's been announced so far and the handling of the situation?
Well, I think Wizards of the Coast has handled this very poorly, to put that succinctly. Just, they've done a real shit job, and then they did a shit job. Sorry, now I'm cursing. Waiting so long to address it. Like, it wasn't until people started canceling their subscriptions and it started hitting their bottom line that they even bothered addressing it. They were letting the whole community kind of eat each other alive instead of kind of step in. So it makes me kind of doubtful of the things they've said about what they plan to do. I'll believe it when I see it, in the final legal document. But I do believe they are going to walk some of that stuff back. And I don't necessarily believe a lot of their claims that this was always their plan. I can see why they needed to make some revisions on the original one, but yeah, I don't necessarily think that they weren't planning on kind of taking it a little far.
Yeah, I don't know if I see it as a gesture of good faith, but I think it's a good sign that they're at least willing to walk it back a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not trying to. I'm new to this space, and I think that has been part of my conflict with it lately. Is that like in December, I was the most enthusiastic motherfucker in the entire goddamn space, and I was just excited to be here, and I wanted to play with each and every one of you, and I was just elated. And you could just say the word dragon or dungeon in a sentence, and I would go off for 45 minutes about all the dumb, cute little plastic guys and shit that I'm painting and stuff. And now, like, I just have anxiety. So I don't know that I've put in the decades worth of old salt mine work that is required for me to have a very informed opinion on this. But I miss when we could all be friends about stupid dice games.
We're also coming from a perspective like our income doesn't come from D&D. Our income comes from our full-time jobs. We probably spend more on D&D than we ever even make on our Twitch stream. I mean, like, we're friends with a lot of creators in this space too who are hurting a lot from what's happened and who don't know what to do, you know. And certainly I'm not going to be the one that tells them they have to worry about getting fed to make rash decisions. It'll be interesting to see kind of what the next few months look like on that front.
I think that there was something that Wizards did that, at least that I noticed when I was reading their original OGL, the new OGL, and then their statements that came, what Laura accurately described as kind of late, as they seemed to be wanting people to think that they owned things that they didn't.
Right.
So like they don't own your original stuff, even if they're trying to make you sign something because if they did, they wouldn't need you to sign anything. Do you know what I mean? Rob, what do you think about that? And then we'll just kind of go around. We'll go Rob, Sam, and then we'll move down to Laura and then Jesse.
I was reading chat to see what I missed, and I blipped on the one track.
Oh well, never mind. You then, Sam, go ahead.
Repeat the question. We're panicking. None of us heard the question.
All right, everybody roll for initiative. Let's go. That's the order we're going to go in.
So, okay. So this is in terms of personal IP and like homebrew and stuff like that?
Yeah, this is in terms of
people's
go ahead.
Rights to that? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't know if I have a leg to stand on here because spoiler, I don't really make engaging content. I don't really make homebrew systems or shit like that.
We're gonna kick you out of the. We're gonna kick you out of the call, dude, because this
I'm
is.
I'm not. Just hear me out.
We gotta be objective here. You're not allowed to shit on yourself.
I'm trying to be objective. I'm not trying to be self-deprecative here. I don't make like homebrew adventure models. I don't make like these sweeping character designs. I've made one homebrew class, I think. In terms of my brand of content, it's I could reasonably move that wherever it needs to go, simply because it's just ideas, you know. It's the ideas, man. Look out, you know. But it's for the people who do that stuff, it takes a lot of work. And the people who write their own adventures, people who write their own stuff for like in terms of classes, like, oh, there was a guy who came out with 100 subclasses recently, like a few months ago, and I was like, how the hell did you think of 100 new subclasses? What even is there? What else? What is left to put into the game? But people are so creative with this stuff, and just will come up with like the My Little Pony Warlock subclass, and it's like, I didn't know I needed this until somebody came up with it. And you can't rely on this corporate conglomerate of like X many people to be as much of an idea factory as an enthusiastic community. And I think sort of taking that away and taking a step back from that is dangerous. for the creative input and especially the enthusiasm that sort of comes with it, because I still love D&D, as flawed as it is. I still play it in my home games. Am I ever gonna buy another WTC product? We're gonna see. I don't know at this point, but it's just it's a system that my friends like, and we still play it. I mean, am I gonna do that for streams and stuff? That's a different question entirely. But at home, people know Dungeons and Dragons, and it's fun, and homebrew is reasonably easy to make, and it's just sort of like the common denominator for a lot of people within this space. And I think the fact that this has been endangered, and to Jesse's point, really has taken a lot of the enthusiasm away from saying, "Oh yeah, I love to roll dice and play Dungeons and Dragons." It feels so dark and almost like nihilistic. It feels kind of apocalyptic in terms of this space.
We need a meme.
That's really sad to see.
We need a meme of looking at wizards being, look at what you did. It has anxiety now. Gloria, what are your thoughts? What are you thinking?
So referring to the clause where they could just take the work of, say, somebody homebrewed a class or an adventure, and it did sound like D&D or Wizards of the Coast was just gonna be like, we can just take this. We can just take your work and give you nothing in return. Am I understanding that correctly? Is that
30 days notice? Hello.
Yeah. Basically, it's a clause where if you're allowed to use their brand, and to me that comes off as like a little bit overreaching, because people can homebrew without using their brand at all.
Right.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, go ahead. And to take someone's work like that, and then basically they could start producing it without compensating the person at all. Like, the compensation isn't that they got to create something in a sandbox. If you are going to, I don't agree that they should take content without, it being a mutually beneficial situation. To try to work around compensating people adequately if they did take that content seems kind of skeezy to me, personally.
This is maybe naive of me. Oh, you're pointing at me. I wasn't sure if that was hello, Jesse wants to talk.
No, that was handsome.
Yeah. Oh, shucks. I need a shave is what I need. Adelaide's birthday is this week, and she's gonna be mad if I'm not clean shaven for it. So I'm embracing this for as long as I can.
That's fair.
So, this is maybe naive of me, but I took Wizards at its word when they said that. Did you hear her in the background saying that's true? He needs to shave. Yeah. I took Wizards at their word that they were doing that just to protect the idea of like parallel thinking. Like the same idea is like two comedians developing a joke in parallel that turns out to be kind of the same joke.
Yeah.
And part of that is because like there is a little bit of historical precedent. Like Kobold Press wrote stuff under the really restrictive 4th edition license where people were worried about their IP being stolen then. And Kobold Press put stuff out under their Midgard world and their like Zobek city. And that stuff is under the 4th edition rules. And Wizards never exercised any of the clauses saying that they had to pulp that stuff. Wizards never tried to hijack that IP. So like, and that was over a decade ago now. So I do think that like, I look at the legal language and I know because like I have had to smooth over legal content working with a lawyer in my day job where I've written things that are kind of similar to like the more like community rah-rah stuff that Wizards had to do. Like helping lawyers sound like human beings is part of my day job.
Yeah.
And I used to be a paralegal, so I understand.
Yeah, right. And I think like maybe it is naive of me because especially once I saw a legal podcast that said like I looked at the whole OGL and like rewrite, and the one thing I would have taken out is that thing because it's not like it's not affording equal rights to both Wizards and other creators. Right. So I think like the opening arguments podcast, that was the one thing that they had a big beef with and they wanted taken out of the OGL. But yeah, I looked at it and I was like, I mean, I don't know, like I saw it and I was like, I see the argument Wizards is making here, but I do like that they were pressured into writing it in a way that is clearer about like the limits and the actual intent they had, rather than saying like, we're going to write something that's really legally favorable to us, but we promise we'll never use it. Like,
yeah, it's kind of like this weird, like I was saying before, I don't think like the legal jargon that we got is anything terribly unusual for a brand. It was a lot of it had to do with the presentation and unnecessarily causing instability in a place where people are already like, listen, YouTube's already, if I'm doing this job on YouTube, it's already unstable. If I'm doing it on Twitch, it's already unstable. The one thing I was consistently relying on was that I can create my stuff on Patreon or on D&D Beyond, and people can give me feedback, yada, yada, yada. And then that stability was just gone. Jesse, what were you thinking?
You know, kind of like what Laura was saying earlier, I can pivot. Sam, can you pivot?
Oh, hell yeah, I can pivot.
Yeah. Rob, I don't know if you can pivot or not, but I have a lot of friends that probably cannot realistically pivot.
Right.
And it's for them that I'm most upset, because like I had this stupid post where I was like, let's all get everybody together and make our own system and blah blah blah, and which blew up in my face real bad. People don't want to all get together and do things and be nice to each other. That's a bad call on my part, and I regret saying it. But
welcome to the internet.
I think people took it as like you're calling for a new boss to replace the old boss. Like I don't know, but people tend to read things kind of cynically on Twitter.
Yeah, I think his goal with that was like what Paizo kind of is trying to put out, where it's an unknown kind of license.
Yeah. That's one of the fun things about D20.
And I'm super cynical about that. About Paizo's moves.
Me too. Yeah. I'm very cynical about that as well. I'm just like, oh yeah, let's just take one thing and replace it with point B, and that's just a big old yikes, because we're still relying on a corporation to tell us what we're allowed to do. That's one of the things I like about like the D20 system. The system itself is, you can't own that. Like D&D doesn't own the D20 system. They never have. They can't own the system. That's not how copyright works, and that's not how trademark works. They're only going to own like, there's some gray area, but they're probably own like this representation of this displacer beast type thing. But they can't own the system.
I really like Legal Eagle's YouTube video.
Yeah, he's saying the exact same thing we were saying before. So yeah, go ahead.
Me?
Jesse.
Oh,
Jesse was, we kind of interrupted Jesse.
Yeah, we did. I was like, wait.
Look, we're all friends. I'm going to interrupt you guys too with like dick and fart jokes. So it's nice because we're actually saying something of value. But that was a great point, honestly. Like, I am a bit of a. Oh, what is happening there?
I was interrupting you.
Chesh is photobombing us with her own repository of memes.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. I'm a little bit sunshine and rainbows sometimes about like this community's ability to like work together and not fuck each other over. But I don't know that that's necessarily realistic. I just don't have the ability to think other ways. It's nice when other people are like, hey, I've been here a while. We need to keep an eye out for like the new Paizo thing. I didn't know that was even a thing we weren't all excited about. I just got here. It's my first day on the internet.
I was at first, and then once I started piecing together some other things, I became a little more cynical about it. And I think that's the thing is like I feel like I'm going crazy absorbing more apocalyptic news than is healthy at this point.
Yeah.
And like just like any other non like hobby news story, I feel like I become more informed and less powerful the more I learn.
It's one of those things. It's one of those situations where this information got dropped, and then a couple people started freaking out, and then it snowballed, and then everybody was like, "Oh my god, it's the end of D&D! Oh my god, it's the end of all the streams! Oh my god, it's at the end of all the products!" And then everybody was like, "Oh my god, Paizo's gonna save us! Jesus has come to save the day!" And it's like, okay, everybody. We're gonna go from 11. We're gonna take it down to a 9, and that certainly does not mean that there are not people suffering and that they shouldn't be freaking out. However, there are ways around it, and sometimes it can be really hard to see those ways if you're freaking out too much.
Seeing the Legal Eagle YouTube video, and then also like what else? Cory Doctorow, who's really big on like copy left.
Ooh.
The idea that like not copyright, copy left. The idea that things could and should be more open.
Yep.
And seeing a lot of like, oh, the OGL was flawed from the get-go, and it was sloppily written as a legal thing, and maybe we don't need it in the first place.
Yep.
That's what led me to the cynicism around Paizo, of them saying, hey, now that we're all mad at D&D, we've actually got the same lawyers who did it the first time, but they're going to do it this time, and they're going to get it right, and they're going to get it for us, and by the way, also they're the law firm that we consult with, and we're going to put it forward eventually one day into some kind of nonprofit to be a steward of it. But I think it's, they're doing a lot of hopes and dreams stuff right now, and what really cinched it for me is kind of a cynical thing is at the end of this statement about like ideals and high-mindedness, there was a coupon code for a discount off Paizo products. And I was like, guys, you gave up the goat with that one.
Sam, how you feeling over there?
I just realized I was the only person with my full name on my name bar.
Oh, no. Sorry. Oh, my bad. No.
Well, Rob always goes by Robert G. Reeve, and I'm like, oh my God, Robert G. Reeve Esquire or some shit.
No. I am not a lawyer. Do not. There's so much law talk going on right now. Do not pin that on me.
Okay, shush. Okay. Yeah, I have a correction. Shitposter is one word. But in terms of, I know Gen Z knowledge coming in clutch here, but I think in terms of cynicism, I am unfortunately on the other side of the spectrum of Jesse. I am so jaded by the space. Because
you and me both.
Oh yeah, no, because I didn't grow up with social media. And then I decided to form a D&D podcast with my friends, and I'm like, hey, you guys, you want to help promote this on Twitter with me? And they're like, no. And I'm like, fine, I'll do it myself. So this is my only exposure to social media like ever. And it's just been like this veneer. Like, there are good people in this community. I think it's much better than the vast majority of Twitter, which is a very low bar. And you could trip over that fucking thing.
That's fair.
But there are a lot of really kind people in this community that I'm very, very glad that I have met. But there's just been so much that just happens in this community constantly, where like Twitter has its character of the day, just that one person who fucks up so royally that everyone tweets about him. The tabletop space is very sort of like a microcosm of that. There's always somebody who makes a bit of a boo-boo, makes a bit of a fucky-wucky, and then they get crucified for it. And I think it's that sort of, I guess, burnt outness of seeing that happen so often with people like, not even corporations. Corporations are corporations. They're going to make money. But even people who we thought we could trust, and people who are like just campaigning for kindness and shit like that, and you want to trust those people, and they come out, it's like, oh, this person was trying to sex with multiple people, and it's like, hey, that's not cool. Don't do that. And it's just, I feel like everyone everyone wears masks for this sort of shit, especially on social media, because you're trying to put forth a facet of yourself that is sort of knowledgeable on this shit, or not. I don't know. I put forth that I'm a buffoon, little court jester man, which is what I am, I think, in real life. But it's just, on a corporate level, this is the same sort of thing again and again and again, where goodwill is great and it's so nice to see from so many people, but there will always be people who will use it to manipulate this base of people who are like, oh, hashtag TTRPG family, hashtag TTRPG solidarity, all rising tide lifts all the boats, and just repeating these sort of same buzzwords and stuff, and like this toxic positivity that sort of just, it becomes meaningless when you look deeper. And I'm so sad and tired just seeing that constantly.
And he's the baby.
Yeah. No. know.
That's Zoomers for you, man. Zoomers see it how it is. Like, there's no, you guys don't see futures.
Yep.
So it's just like the Zoomers are like, yeah, everything is sad. Fuck this life.
Everything is sad. Well, I think I've heard that the millennial grind set is nothing matters and I'm sad about it, whereas the Gen Z grind set is nothing matters, baby. Let's fucking go. Yeah.
Well, you're young. You'll get there.
Yeah.
No, I'm waiting for the walls to fall. But no, it's just, it's sad to see this space of people. It's so insular, and trust goes such a long way with people when you meet them and you get so close to, like, I have more online friends, I think, at this point than physical friends, which I would have mocked myself for in high school, but I don't really care because these are good people. And there are bad actors who are wolves in sheep's clothing here, and corporations are packs of them. So
sure. Yeah, I think there's something to be said about, like, you need to, when you're in an online space, you got to be careful about who you trust, and it applies across the board to every avenue of wherever you go. And corporations are not people, so we shouldn't think of them as such.
Well, actually, according to this law.
Yeah, well, I'm Canadian.
Oh, well, yeah.
Canadians are still people, though, right?
No.
Canadian.
So, gee. I do have a question from RJ in the chat that says, I've seen a lot of people argue that in the end, Wizards got what they wanted. They drove third parties away, kind of giving them more of a monopoly in the situation, which does seem to be a little bit of their MO in this situation. We'll start with Rob and we'll go back around again. What do you think? Were you listening this time?
Yes. I think, I don't know. I don't know that they wanted it to work quite this well.
Yeah, fair.
I think that they did want to rein in third parties. Partly for, like, maybe brand risk, but like I don't know how much the royalty payments really mattered to them. Like, I don't know if maybe there was maybe it matters more than we think, but they did walk them back. I struggle to understand the rationale of like what the suits wanted to compromise on and what they didn't want to compromise
that 50K reporting, like what we were working on, and you need to tell us how much. That was bizarre to me.
That's market research. That's right. That's them saying, "Hey, what's a big hit here? Is it something with crafting rules? Is it settings that feel a little more anime inspired?"
But they could have just asked. They didn't have to make a big old fucking sign off and make you do it. They could have just asked, and people would have told them.
Well, now they definitely are asking,
and now people aren't going to tell them.
They're walking that back.
Yeah.
But I also think, like, I think that if you're a third-party publisher and you put all your eggs into the 5e basket, you probably should have, like Jesse said, you probably should have found a way to pivot. And I think that a lot of I think the OGL, okay, I know how to pin down this thought. I think the OGL is about entrepreneurs. And I have no entrepreneurial spirit. I am happy to be a worker bee freelancer. I love writing and editing. But I am not the person who's starting $1 million Kickstarter. And I think, like, the Patreon crew and the Kickstarter crews that sort of found a way to carve out entire businesses on the back of 5e content.
Yep.
I think that those people are going to be perfectly capable of pivoting to something new. And I think that Wizards maybe was hoping, like, either you'll give us a piece of this or you'll leave, and then a new crop of people will eventually crop up. And I think that, like, comparing the OGL to, say, the Dungeon Masters Guild license, which there are a lot of enthusiastic creators for that, but at the same time, it was always far more restrictive than even what the new OGL looks like.
Yeah.
Where you can only print or publish through the DM's Guild. You can't put that stuff anywhere else. They take 50% of every dollar you make, not 25% of every dollar over 750,000.
Yeah.
Like, the DM's Guild was always way more restrictive, but also you still had creators who were kind of nuts about it. And nobody who was making it the way that like nobody was pulling in millions in income the way that Kickstarter or Patreon was. But I think that it's about like entrepreneurs and not freelancers, and the freelancers are the people that I'm worried about.
If you go like that full cynical route, like if you go full cynical, you would completely spin a reverse Uno and say, yeah, Wizards is shitting on a lot of creators and those creators are suffering, and then you pull a reverse Uno and say, we only know those entrepreneurs and those people are suffering because they're trying to ride off of our goodwill and sympathy towards the situation that Wizards has put them in. You could fully reverse that and say, well, they're just trying to abuse your emotional state over it. I don't think that's what's happening. But you could go that if you just go full cynical, which I don't think that's fair. Sam,
my full cynical. I've almost written this up, and I've like stopped myself several times. But like, I think that the Open D&D hashtag really was driven by like about 20 creators who got together and wanted it to protect like their specific 5e driven business. And that the progenitors of that were not, they were doing it for the money just like everybody else was. Like everybody else who's active in this space. I don't think anyone's saying D&D needs to stay open. I think that they've sort of whipped up their own individual fan bases of patrons and Kickstarter backers. And have like activated them. And honestly, I think they also did too well, because I've seen a couple of their tweets and they're panicking a little bit that people are leaving 5e for other games. They're trying to say, wait, no, we want you to tell Wizards to change the contract and then keep backing us because we make 5e stuff.
Right. Yeah. Sam, what are you thinking?
Yeah.
I think, what was the original question? It was like, shit.
We've talked about so much. The question,
it was about the third party content creators, like
right.
if it minimized their space, I believe.
Yep.
I agree with Rob pretty heavily here, especially like folks like to name names here, not in a bad light at all, but just like Griffin Saddlebag has been huge in pushing like, this is really affecting us who make this Patreon content. And I don't want to share them at all. They make fantastic stuff. I use it in my games.
Yeah.
But I also agree that I think it is working a little too well. And if there is any silver lining from the situation at all, if you were thinking of making a tabletop game before this, now is the time. We are entering a state of power vacuum anarchy. Go fucking nuts.
I've already gotten together with some people in the background, and we're already like twiddling away, scheming our little goblin schemes.
Right. This is like the collapse of some sort of empire, you know? Like I like to play D&D. I like to play D&D on Spontaneum. Is that how it needs to be? No, it isn't. I'm lucky that I am able to pivot. And in fact, I probably will. I'm considering just making Spontaneum a game show. Like, not even tabletop related that much at all.
It was so much theater of the mind anyway.
Yeah, it's very improv. I'm lucky that that's my situation. Because I'm not very connected to Wizards of the Coast, unless you count the library of books behind me. And
he flipped around in solidarity.
I flipped around in solidarity. Yeah, like a inside out baseball cap or whatever. But no, it's just for third party folks. I think like Kobold's Press and MCDM, who are like now making their own systems, when like they seemed pretty prepared with stuff for that, like pretty quick, you know. They're like, I think they were biding their time. Like they knew shit was about to hit the fan for sure. Like, okay, this is our contingency plan.
There were rumblings, I think, before it really broke. There's been some rumblings for months now.
I completely agree. And sort of prepping for that has been really big for these larger third-party creators who want to separate themselves from that $750,000 cap at this point. But yeah, that's my take, I guess.
Laura, what you got for us? Then we'll go to Jesse.
I don't know if I'm particularly going to answer the question, but I do think there's a big difference between, say, like Kobold Press, who I think will be able to pivot easily. But then we also have some content creator friends who've had very successful Kickstarters that have reached 1 million, that I know it's going to be difficult for them to pivot. Their audience goes to them for D&D content. They've been running polls to see what people want from them still, and they still very much want D&D content. Their content relies on algorithms on YouTube. People, that's why I'm like encouraging people, like, if you want to see content other than D&D, please, when those content creators are trying to pivot, please share that content, like it, recommend it to people, get it in front of more eyes, because I can't really blame people for continuing to put out D&D content if that's what's feeding them. And I'm not talking about like the big companies, but the people who are like, one or two people,
the 50 employee dice market, etc. Yeah, dice company. Yep. Jesse, thoughts?
I think that was a good point that Laura made. That I think a lot of the larger third parties smelled this coming and were ready to rock. I have some good friends in some of the other larger third-party publishers. I'm not going to name names or anything, but I was talking to them, and this was back when, before any rumblings of the OGL came out, and it was just, you could tell where Hasbro was pushing for this. This was back in September. You could just kind of tell like where this is headed, and I was like, do they not know that third parties are kind of what got them here? That's the horse that brought them. And this person said, no, they don't.
Right. Or they just don't care. They think they're good enough they don't need the horse.
Yeah, I think so. Well, I think they just didn't realize that there was a horse. I think they're just like, we're here, and it's because
run it over.
Yeah. Do I think that they realized what this was going to be? No. I also don't think that. How do I phrase this without fucking starting a shit show?
Start it. It'll be on my channel. I'll take it. Give me your shit show. Look at the title. Give.
You're screwed now.
Give me.
Clip this.
Yep.
Yeah, do not clip this. No, I think that. I think that as much as Wizards was trying, probably Hasbro was trying to crack down on the third parties, I think that the community did a lot of that too. That there's a lot of folks out there that were being pretty uncharitable towards third-party creators that were making D&D content, to the point where it's like, fuck, man, I don't know if I can do this anymore. I mean, I have a module. It's fucking awesome, and I worked my ass off on it. It's got like 30 unique 3D models. It's got a cute little town, the garden one. It's cute as shit, right?
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to release it. I don't think I'm going to fucking bother releasing it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to deal with the backlash. I don't want to deal with the agony of trying to publish it, because I was going to try and publish it as a larger piece because it's big.
Yeah.
And I think it's just going to be a thing that my home table gets to have played.
Yeah, I mean, you had that really fucking cool as shit video that came out on Twitter that was the dragon, or no, it wasn't a dragon. You had like the multiple layers with the bones embedded in, and it had like layers. So that shit was fucking cool as hell. But we're not, people aren't gonna get to see that anymore because people are too busy trying to shit on creators who are stuck in this middle ground where it's like, well, I already made it. Laura made a good point about Kickstarter. It's like, these Kickstarters have already succeeded and are long since closed, but their product has to come out still. And so what are they supposed to do? Just not release the product? They get, yeah, you're right. You're right over there.
Man. Oh, no.
Yeah, that's you. That's you.
That's me.
That's you.
Fuck.
And so how are they supposed to spin these? Because, and I think Dabber in the chat made a good point, because he said, I didn't really quit 5th edition. I quit new Wizards of the Coast purchases. I'm more than happy to play a 5e game from someone else. And I want to know what you guys kind of think of this, because I'm going to jump off of what Jesse was saying. I think it would be a good idea as a community, like everybody, to be on board with having this conversation talking about what Wizards actually owns and what Wizards doesn't own. Because what they don't own is the rules of the game. They only own a flavor. So you could still have Jesse's module, you could still have Sam's Kickstarter book. All you have to do is remove all of the D&D trademarky copyright that they own. And so you're still getting stuff. You can still play 5th edition, and Wizards doesn't have to be a part of it because, unlike a lot of what their language says, they don't own your table's experience.
But you see, Chesh, that requires nuance. And you are a person, and Twitter can be a very black and white space.
Well, but you can.
Strong word there.
But you can black and white what Wizards does and doesn't own.
You can.
Sorry, go ahead, Sam.
I mean, that's objective. But in terms of when I wrote the Should He Not Compendium, my book, I know I'm an author, shocking to most.
Shill.
I'll buy my things. No, but in all seriousness, when I first wrote that, I took a bunch of the ideas that I had in my account and I wrote a bunch of stuff for each class and whatnot, and I put that together. And I tried to, I put on a Kickstarter, and I tried to put it on DM's Guild, and they're like, hey, you got to abide by the SRD. You can't be having these other subclasses in your ideas. Absolutely not. So I read that fucking thing front to back. And what they own is names for the most part. Yep. You can't put Dungeons and Dragons into your stuff, really. 5e, fishy, but you can do it. You can't have I think the 9 hells. You can't have in your.
Yeah, you'd have to title it. It's just
absolutely
hell,
not. It's absolutely not allowed.
Yeah. 9.5 hells.
9.5 hells. Yeah, that I think they're allowed. Mind flayers, beholders.
9.5.
Theirs.
Yeah.
9.5.
They're going to be livid when they find out about Dante.
Yeah, right?
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Have you heard of the fantasy world of Italy? This campaign setting that goes back at least decades.
The whole continent shaped like a boot. That's too unbelievable.
Is Dante public domain? Are the 9 hells?
Oh yeah.
How can they put a claim? Anyways, I don't know. I'm not. They would only be able
to. They'd only be able to put a trademark or a copyright under a specific description of. Right. So the same way you. So they can't own Fireball, but there is a trademark for Fireball, the drink, the alcohol. But that's within the confines of their iconography, of their brand specifically. Right. And it has to be a drink, and it has to have this, and it has to be this flavor, yada, 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 yada. So they could own Bahamut, but they could only own a very specific description and stat set, yada. Bahamut?
Yep.
Yeah.
Bahamut?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been saying it wrong.
You've been saying it wrong the whole time.
I've been saying Bahamut, which I didn't know that was not correct. Yeah, is that not correct?
I'm Team Bahamut.
I'm Team Bahamut.
Bahamut.
Yeah. My exposure is through Final Fantasy.
Same.
And
yep.
I've never played Final Fantasy, so I would probably do it.
This baby.
I know.
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. But for the book, I did that, and then Dean, the people at it wasn't even DM's Guild. I think it's on Drive Through RPG. They're like, listen, you can't have most of the shit in the book. So I rewrote, I think, about 70% of that book to fit in with the SRD. So the version that the Kickstarters got and the version that is on DM's Guild are wildly different.
Yeah.
And it's just they own words. So
did you release? You released an OGL version and a DM's Guild version of the same book?
Yeah, it's been that. Oh god, the entire.
We'll talk offline about it. I want to know more. I want to know how that works.
Yeah, this sounds like fun.
Nightmare.
Oh boy.
Yeah. No. It really has turned me off from ever making any more tabletop content ever and publishing.
Well, I mean, part of that comes from a level of knowledge, right? And if that level of knowledge becomes standard, if everybody knows what D&D owns and what D&D doesn't, or what DM's Guild owns and what they don't, it makes it a lot easier from the start. Sorry,
sure. If we like wrote, or not even wrote, if we just like pulled shit from the SRD or whatnot and put it in a little easy to read document and like a big little list or something, and just circulated it, that might work.
That'd be great.
But that would be cool. It'd be a fun little roadmap essentially. But I think I saw this chat, like, do we all need to be content creators? Do we all need to be entrepreneurs in order to enjoy this game? And no, you don't. In fact, I enjoy D&D much more before I started making shit for it. It became like a bit of a job almost. But it's like, you don't have to, and that's fine. But you need to understand that there are people who are affected by this shit.
Right.
It does hurt them, and it really fucking blows. Which is unfortunate. And I mean, you can keep playing 5e for your home games. I'm doing that right now. Fun fact. Granted, my own bastardized version of D&D, which, I mean, who doesn't?
Right. Nobody's playing standard.
Who plays Raw?
Nobody's
plays
playing
Raw.
And even
I would like to meet them.
Even if you are playing
Robert.
Raw, you cannot tell me you are not.
Robert,
you can't tell me you're not finagling shit.
I've been playing D&D for 20 years, and honestly, I don't even think I've ever given Wizards of the Coast any of my money because I stole the manuals back in 3.5 off the internet.
Ooh, yeah, there's a whole nother conversation to be had about piracy.
That's the 9.5 circle of hell. That's where the people who stole the manuals online go.
I really like, there's one picture that I saw circulating around, and I haven't seen anybody adapt it for D&D yet, but it's a picture of somebody being like, oh, look, we have Netflix and stuff, and they put their pirate hat away, and then their next screen shows, like, Netflix, Paramount, Disney, da-da-da-da-da, and then they're like, hello, old friend.
I've seen that one, yeah.
But we're not pirating, right, mateys? Yahar? We're not doing that.
Yar, no piracy here, brother.
Yahar, no piracy.
I haven't pirated a D&D book in 20 years.
I turned into Hulk Hogan.
Brother.
I don't even own a D&D.
Yeah.
I just know the rules, you know? Yeah, like I don't own a dungeon.
That's true.
And the rules... They don't own the rules. That's the way it works.
Jesse, you do own D&D because don't we all own D&D?
In your heart.
Isn't it our job to take it back? I think we're in a weird place where, like, we've always had this illusion that Dungeons and Dragons is one big happy community, and I never really believed that.
Y'all got to spend more time on horror stories.
You're right. Like if you look at like the OSR, like the old school Renaissance or old school revival, like they have a lot of right-leaning values. And it's hard for me to call them part of the same community as like the Critical Role theater kid type.
That's fair.
And to ever say like, oh, we're all playing Dungeons and Dragons and therefore we are part of the TTRPG family. Like I think what we're going to
Everybody's got a racist uncle, come on.
Right. I think what we're going to see from this is a fracturing in the way that the OSR community fractured off. Where they mostly play outdated versions of D&D. And I think anyone who's saying now, no one can take 5th edition from us. You should look at what the 3.5 people, the people who are still playing 3.5 today, and consider like that's going to be you in 10 years. Not in terms of values, but in terms of like who's supporting this content. Like the couple of people who are still playing. Like I've seen Kickstarted 3.5 ebooks that make like $30K. Like they're not big, but they have like a tiny little audience of devotees who are like, this is my edition for the rest of my days. And I think that's like, we're gonna get a splinter group like that who are sticking to the 5th edition that we all know today, as D&D pushes it towards a tweaked rule set, probably on purpose as part of this like OGL.
Yeah.
Let's change things enough that if you want to continue, if you want to leave us behind, you're not going to be able to play with any of the new toys.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, particularly the virtual tabletop. Go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you, Rob. I personally have never seen this community as like this one big get along family. You know, like I said, I started playing the 3-5 days. You know, and so that's never been my perception. I butt heads a lot with some of the right wing TTRPGers that for some reason keep coming to my statuses.
How do you? You gotta tell me your secret, because like I'm all in. I'm in. I want this.
You want the drama?
I do. I do.
I do. I am a bluff. No. I do. You don't.
No. I'm saying Chester
I'm glad I need to not block them so much because I give you so much good content for your streams.
Mm-hmm.
I love for my threads in there.
It's true.
I did a thread.
Come watch Friday.
I did a thread last week about like one of the very first OGL snafus that ever happened. And it was in 3.5. It was in that era. Back in the day, there was a license called the D20 System Trademark License.
Yep.
And there was a product badge on the covers of 3.5 books. And back then, third-party content was considered mostly like not great, like really like way out of balance, way too powerful. And that book, that like that badge that people put on their book covers was like a seal of approval of like you pass Wizard's test. You're considered good enough content.
Mm-hmm.
And like third-party content doesn't really need that anymore. But back then, it was a big deal. And someone released a book that was called The Book of Erotic Fantasy.
Oh, yes. Classic.
And it was full of like nude art, like photographs. It was full of it was like 190 pages of like rated R content.
What can I do with my dick using magic?
There were
the magic system.
Among the magic items were magic dildos.
Oh yeah, my favorite.
Fatal.
To this day, I still use the chart of whether or not these two can fucking make a kid.
It's a legendary book because it Wizards looked and they were like, oh no, we cannot let you make this book. We are withdrawing your license here. You're not allowed to put this out. And they were like, okay, well, the open gaming license is here. You can't stop us from releasing under that.
Yep.
And the book had the words Dungeons and Dragons on the cover in big letters. And as part of Wizards rewrites, they were like, you're not allowed to put the words Dungeons and Dragons on the book. I know it's not our logo, but it's still, we have the copyright for that. You have to take that off. And they replaced it with big giant letters that said, right. And instead they replaced it with a big giant note on the cover that said, this book is released in compliance with OGL 1.0a. And it's like a huge note on the cover over a chick in a corset with horns and wings.
Yeah. I enjoy
I'll send
that.
you guys the thread because it's crazy. It's like the first OGL thing.
It's
that really
great.
Happened.
It's great.
20 years ago. Yeah.
I'll add the thread to the description.
I didn't realize 3.5 came out in 2003. That's a while ago.
Yeah.
Were you born yet, Sam?
I was but a wee lad of 2.
Oh my God.
I graduated in 2003.
Your parents read the Book of Erotic Fantasy and they were like, this is giving us ideas.
And then we got Sam.
Taking these as suggestions.
Dungeons and Dragons made you, Sam.
Oh, I kind of did, didn't it? I kind of did.
There's something to be said for like compliance versus non-compliance, right? And this is why I think this conversation about what they do and do not own, because I think that most content creators, the people that we care about, the people that are the ones that are going to suffer from this, not the corporations, not goosey people that are like Sam, who's already ready to pivot and is like, fuck all y'all, don't care. People who are
care.
Just kidding. People who are stuck in the middle, who are suffering and they don't know what to do, right? If we can have that conversation and actually decide what Wizards does own and what Wizards doesn't own, it means that likely they don't have to change very much, if anything, of their product and have to change only very little of their marketing strategy. If you just instead write, hey, I made this for D&D, you say, I made this for a D20 system. It is Dungeons and Dragons compatible. Done, clear, no fucking problems. You're making homebrew, just label it as homebrew. Don't say D&D homebrew because you're not using their fucking licensing. Homebrew for the D20 system.
Yeah.
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
That thread about the Book of Erotic Fantasy mostly got retweeted by like the OSR right wingers.
Oh no.
who were like, this is the freedom of speech that we need in gaming. And I was like, oh man, why are you guys the guys who had to get a hold of this?
But they're the ones to point out that I'm half naked on my profile picture.
Yeah, but yeah, right, exactly. It's double standards. It's double standards all the way down with them.
Rights for me, but not for thee. Of course. The classic. Yeah.
You had actually kind of followed some of our engagement with like OSR hardcore right wing D&D space.
I did
for a while. And those guys are fairly relentless and fairly aggressive, but they're more enjoyable to argue with because I'm sure they're wrong.
Fair.
It's so much easier to argue with somebody that you're just like, you're fucking wrong. This is horrible what you're saying. It's indefensible. And I don't think you even believe what you're saying. Like I don't have any problem with people playing older versions. It's just weird that it comes like with a Proud Boys hat.
Traditionalism. The good old days, you know? When girls weren't allowed to play D&D.
Sorry,
none of us started until the last few years.
Women weren't. Fun fact: women weren't allowed to play any tabletop games until like 2010.
Fun fact:
crazy that D&D ruined that for us all.
Women didn't exist until like 1983.
Yeah, that's when God took the rib out of Adam.
30 years ago to bully them.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, we love a good paradox.
Was that
Book of Erotic Fantasy? I gotta check
Jesse,
that out.
did you had another? Do you know? Jesse, did you have another half of that?
There is another half of that, and I'm not going to say it because I'm in enough trouble.
All right, I'm gonna take a stab at saying something about this. It's a lot easier to argue with people who are bad at arguing, who their own arguments fold in on each other, like on themselves as soon as you kind of walk it through and follow it to the end of the logic train. It's a lot harder when you're trying to argue with people that you care about and nobody's really wrong. Dungeons and Dragons and Wizards aren't technically wrong to be doing what they're doing, and I'll take the burden, I'll take the yoke of that. They're not wrong. What they're doing is legal. What they're asking for is correct. Most IPs already have these things built in. You guys remember those old fucking FBI warnings on VHSs? Yeah, that's what they're doing. It's this shit.
Sam doesn't.
What's a VHS?
Sam doesn't.
No fucking VHSs. Don't at me.
Do you ever see IT Crowd where they have the FBI warning where it's like, you wouldn't shit in a policeman's helmet. Yeah. You wouldn't then give that helmet back to his grieving widow.
I might. Don't at me. You don't know my life. But what we've got here is it's not only is it harder to argue with, but it is really difficult when nobody's really in the wrong because everybody's right to be upset at Wizards. You're correct to be angry and frustrated, especially when you're shook because you don't know what you're gonna do and you don't even know how much this affects you. People who are
for Critical Role, like people are pointing out that they filmed this in advance. They may have D&D Beyond as a sponsor. I'm like, they probably have contracts going out X amount of episodes, X amount of time where they're required to put D&D Beyond as a sponsor.
Yep. Sam?
If I may interject here, I don't watch Critical Role. Thank you, Jesse. I don't watch Critical Role.
Boop.
What?
Would you boop me?
Thank you. I don't watch Critical Role. I don't have the time for it, unfortunately. But the statement that they put out is a fucking masterclass. I know people are like, oh, but this is a whole lot of nothing. This is a fucking empty burger with just 2 buns that they pooped in and served to us and said it was a hamburger. Absolutely not. No. Because the way they kind of navigated around a one, are you babies? Do you not know what a non-defamation clause is? They can't just come out and be like, by the way, our main moneymaker is a big bag of poopy buttholes. We can't say we're gonna come out and we're like, come out swinging.
Very few people can get away with it. John Oliver is one of them. Oh no, money daddy, what are you gonna do?
They can't do that. They can't do that.
John Oliver?
And I mean, John Oliver of the Tabletop Space. Or just have John Oliver.
If John Oliver did a segment on this, I would probably piss myself laughing.
We might get one from like Stephen Colbert.
Colbert.
Yeah, that's true.
We might get a Colbert one.
Yeah. I'll add him. Everybody responds to me on Twitter.
Oh, there you go.
That's a superpower right there. Yeah, nobody fucking takes me seriously. But
I do.
Do you?
You shouldn't.
You don't.
You shouldn't. No.
You don't. Yeah, you don't want to be taken seriously.
No, I don't.
I'm honoring you by not taking you seriously.
Thank you.
You take me too seriously.
No, but the thing they put out is so clearly worded to be like, we're with you, we understand, we can't talk about it openly.
Yeah.
And it was really well done. And the people who are like, actually this is nothing. It is. You don't understand subtext because you're on Twitter to that, all the time.
It's a fucking Rorschach test. People read whatever they want to read that statement.
That was Jesse's thread. That was 100% Jesse. Jesse's thread was like, hey, can we all like not just dunk on each other and maybe figure out a solution? And everyone went, fuck you.
Well, and they're
what are you trying to be fucking reasonable?
We're both hurting Wizards of the Coast and we're corporate shills for them supporting them. Like it's always something how can you be both? I don't know.
In the midst of all that conflict, that's what I took solace in, is that I had people calling me a corporate shill for Hasbro, which is a wild take. And then I had people saying, how dare you abandon Hasbro in their moment of need? I'm like, well, I guess I'm in the middle of two absolute wild takes.
How dare you leech?
Yeah, you fucking
steal
leeches.
From Wizards of the Coast.
Am I leeching and shilling and wow.
I just love this. I absolutely love this full-on concept of like Hasbro is suffering and Jesse's wearing a cape that's just a towel wrapped around his neck. And it's just like, I have come to save the day.
Well, Jesse's got a pretty good Superman cosplay. I think
I agree, but I don't think Hasbro needs him.
No, Hasbro doesn't need anyone. They're owned by one of the biggest. No, they don't need any White Knights. They're owned by fucking BlackRock. Yeah. You know, they're gonna be fine. Yeah. Or if they're not, the money will still be there.
Right.
That isn't going anywhere.
Our friends, you know, we're pro our Ginny D's and our Dungeon Dudes and people like that.
Yeah.
That's who we support.
Yeah,
exactly. It's for the people. I have a ton of folks at Wizards of the Coast who I know who are like, hey, this sucks. This is real bad, and we don't feel great about it. And they can't come out and say that, obviously.
Yeah.
Even if they did, it would just be more of a shit show.
Right, and they're good people, but fuck WTC.
We have friends who work for Wizards of the Coast who've had to go on private because people are, you know,
poor Dixon, man. He's a champ.
Yeah.
Feel bad for him.
Yeah.
You know what? I would have been so fucking stoked in like November if I got in like August if I got a job offer from WotC. As a small, aspirational thing, I'd been like, that's the fucking coolest shit that ever happened to me. And it like, I'm sure there are people in that position.
Crystal Sully got hired like a couple months ago. Latia got hired a couple months ago, and then now they're having to deal with this. I'm like, oh goodness, I'm so sorry.
And that's on Wizards PR shit in the bed, and it's probably not even it's not even their PR team. No PR team would have written this.
No.
God, it was Chat GDP or whatever the hell that thing is called. They're like, generate apology, put in a bad nat 1 joke, and then say that we won. Get it. Go for it. We are at an hour and a half, so I did want to ask one more thing that's a little bit more fun and a little bit less like stressful about everything we've been talking about, and we'll wrap it up from there.
There's rumors about a Dungeons and Dragons AI that was going to do the job of the DM. And I was wondering how everybody else felt about that, because my brain immediately went to, that's just a video game. So, what do you guys think?
Can I go before Rob, because I know Rob is just going to be a torrent of words.
Rob gets to go last. Rob gets to go last.
Okay. I saw this post today that was like, I think the reason, like, it's odd that 5e is so successful because the DM does so much work.
Yes.
And like that was a bad thing. I'm a control freak, guys. I like that. I like juggling all the plates. All the world building and the funny voices and the math. They're my plates. I put the burger on them. I'm making burgers later. That's why I'm thinking about it so much. But it's just, it's like my own process, and giving that to like a robot to do, I'm like exactly what you said. I would rather just play Skyrim or like a choose your own adventure thing, or even watch fucking Bandersnatch or some shit like that. Like, what would be the point? What would be the point? The AI is not gonna laugh after you decide to stop saving the world and make a cheese factory. You try to break the GM. That's a whole part of the game, to make them funny and silly. If that's the case, if you're playing a serious campaign, just make sure you talk about it beforehand. You can't have a session 0. Never. No, of course not. Of course, I totally believe you. Just having, you can't really have a session 0 with an AI either. You know, like you could set boundaries and stuff, but it's not thoughtful. You know, it's like a shell, and I'm not a fan. Not a fan.
Fair enough. Jesse, what do you think? Then we'll go to Laura. Then we'll go to Rob.
Cool. I mean, that's it. It's a video game. This is a wildly unpopular take. So clip this.
Jesse's just spilling all the beans.
Yeah, I don't love VTTs for the same purpose. They feel very much like a video game. I recognize that they are needed, and I recognize that they are valuable, especially for accessibility's sake. And we don't not live in a pandemic, so I recognize the value in them, but I don't love them. I love sitting around the fucking table with a bunch of shitheads, throwing Cheetos at each other because somebody decided to like bard my character's wife, you know?
Oh no.
So I think removing another human element from that, you're just getting shitty World of Warcraft at that point. But I could be wrong. Maybe it's gonna be fucking great. I don't know. Maybe if you love D&D but you got social anxiety, it could be useful. I don't fucking know.
D&D solo player.
I mean, there's cool little adventures and shit too. There's like little solo books and stuff, but I don't know, for people with like crippling social anxiety, I suppose that could be a useful tool, but I hate the idea of it.
I kind of like it maybe as an idea of like getting to learn the game a little bit before you join a group, if it's fast. Tutorial.
Also, I like painting minis. I like to paint minis and show my players all the dumb apes and ogres and owlbears that I painted. And that takes that away from me, and that makes my penis not hard. So I think things should only be the way I like, and fuck everybody else. Your turn, Laura.
Are we talking like we're going to get some enemies in the game where they have like 11 fingers and small portioned hands and other... I'm imagining all the AI art being translated into this.
DM ad-lib.
You know, I'm not going to yuck anyone else's yum, but I'm not interested in the slightest. That's about all that I'll say on that.
It sounds like you're thinking about it at like the way you would type in, like give a prompt to an AI that's going to write you a story, or like you get your phone to autofill the sentence. Like that's what that does.
I just come up with the most bizarre adventure. I don't know, maybe if it was that could be hilarious. I don't know.
All right, Rob, take us to school.
Yeah, buddy.
It's horseshit. Here
we go.
The AI DM claim is coming out of a YouTuber who has spent the past 2 weeks rage baiting everyone. And I think he knows that the AI claim is going to be really good for rage bait clicks.
That's fair.
So what I think let's talk through what it could look like, what it might realistically look like. which I think are automated tools to help a DM, or a couple of pre-written adventures. Here's Curse of Strahd. We've automated all of the DM stuff in Curse of Strahd so that you can play through Curse of Strahd without a DM, where like prompts will come up and then you guys can react to prompts. I agree that that's a very different experience of D&D than what we all know. But I also think that Wizards of the Coast has a huge DM bottleneck problem, and I've thought this for years.
Yes, they do.
Because, like, start playing games. Their entire business is you pay a dungeon master to run your game. And the fact that there are paid DMs tells me that people cannot get reliable DMs, or that people are scared to become DMs. They think it's way too much work. They think it's really intimidating.
And it's expensive because they have to shoulder most of the cost.
Yep. I think, yeah, DMs are the whales of Dungeons and Dragons. They buy all the books, they buy the adventures, and I think that an automated DM is part and parcel with this new subscription model, where you want to transfer the costs away from a DM if you get rid of a DM onto all of the players. So, like, on paper, the leak that I saw makes sense to me and is actually really similar to like a prediction thread I made in April.
You're gonna have to link that down, like send that link to me so I can put it in the description.
Sure. That was before they even announced a virtual tabletop, and I said, like, I think there's going to be a 3D virtual tabletop. I think there's going to be a Game Pass style change to subscriptions,
voiced by Matt Mercer.
Content. What's this?
Somebody in the chat said it's going to be voiced by Matt Mercer.
Chat GPT. So I think a robot GM, it's probably not about generating content and generated stories. I think it's about like assistance to the tasks that GMs find most tedious. I hope.
Encounter
if
building
it's about,
and
yeah. And if it's about something else, like what's AI Dungeon? There was a thing that came out like 2 or 3 years ago, AI Dungeon, and I saw once someone tried to generate a story in AI Dungeon and then post it on DM's Guild. I bought it once. It was terrible because it has no retention of like character or plot hooks or anything like that.
Oh no.
So I don't think that AI story generation is in a place where it's at all valuable right now. I think tools that are automated to make DMing easier is a good thing, and I think the phrase AI DM that's going around on Twitter today and yesterday
clickbait
is clickbait.
That's
my take.
Yeah, if I may add on something a little more general. Somebody said this much better than I will. But it's that, like, we have designed machines, robots, and more recently AI to do the jobs that we do not want to do. And the moment they moved into art, the moment they moved into things we should conceivably be dedicating our time to because they're pursuits that we want to do, it feels like it's lost that original purpose. And that stuff feels sort of fake and lifeless. And I'm of that same opinion as Rob. Like, if there are tools that can help people run games, by all means. Granted, I'm a glutton for punishment, and I love juggling those plates myself without my assistant juggling third arm. Horrible allegory, but yeah, it feels detractive almost, I guess, to me personally.
There's things you can kind of automate a little bit that could be helpful, but right?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I think we can start wrapping up here. How you guys feeling? Get everything out? Feel better? Yeah.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Feel the same. Everybody's just sad and tired. Oh.
We worked, but it has nothing to do with you.
Oh, thanks.
We're just tired because we're old, had day jobs we went to. So
she does not speak for me. I do not represent the statement.
Fair enough. All right. Do you guys wanna rhyme off who you are, and then we'll sign on out of here and tell people where to find you and show your stuff. We'll put links as well as in the description. I have to add Jesse's and Laura's because they're not down there right now. I'll make sure those get added after we go. You got. You guys are welcome to stay in the call, by the way, as we wrap up. Just wait a second. And then once we come back in, we'll come back in. But hey, Rob, who are you? And where can people find you?
I am Rob. I am RobertGReeve on Twitter. When I occasionally I'm on Twitch, that's me on Instagram. That's everywhere you could be and don't want to be. I'm there under my full name, RobertGReeve.
G is your full middle name?
Well, no, I have a middle name, but I'm very quiet about it. I don't like it's it's strange and elusive. So I
like to think that it's just God now.
That would be way too. Can you imagine the parents I would have to do that?
Yeah, it'd be like me.
If you see me in the real world, I will tell you in the real world. But,
that's fair.
But until then, it is my secret. Or you could ask Adelaide. Adelaide would rat me out. The thing that I had but put on hold was going to be on the Dungeon Masters Guild. I still have a couple of writers who were figuring out what to do with it. It would be a direct sequel to Curse of Strahd that is combined with Spelljammer, where you are the reincarnated heroes that beat Strahd before, and now you're trying to find him again.
And you're in space.
I describe it as gothic horror Star Wars.
That's so cool.
I still have some art for it and a couple of writers and like the relative pitch of it. But if everybody hates 5th edition and they're just going to be mad at me for making this, I guess it's just kind of on hold for a while. So
fucking shit ass. All right, Jesse, Laura, who are you and where do people find you?
You first, because you're pretty.
I'm Laura. You can find me under our old cosplay name at Jessaloris on Twitter. And sometimes I do Twitch streams with him at his Twitch channel, which he will talk about probably.
Yeah, if you don't know me, I'm Jesse Jurdak. I'm at Jesse Jurdak on everything. And if you Google me, I think you get a picture of me at a party. But yeah, I do Twitch stuff. I do occasionally on my Twitch channel. I will just be like, hey, here, enter the password, and you get to be a player in a Gonzo DM or D&D game that I just made up on the spot. So I do fun shit like that. And what else do I do? Is that it?
You write some modules.
I write modules. Yeah, I wrote a sweet ass fucking like cottagecore module that takes place in an old lady's garden, and I think I'm not going to release it.
Remind me to send you my Oleander mystery. I'll send that to you. I think you'll like it.
No, don't. I don't want
it. I'm gonna do it. Can't stop me.
All right, fine. Samwise.
Yes. Hello, Master Frodo. Potato. Right. So, I'm Sam Comerford. I do shitty character ideas on Twitter, and that's my thing. Also, there's a book of those coming out. Well, it's out. You can buy it. But the physical versions are coming out. I promise. What's that?
I've made so many shitty character. Half my tweets are like shitty character ideas.
Oh yeah, that's my whole brand.
Do you have the shitty character open license? Because Sam kind of owns that stuff.
Yeah,
you can have my
royalties to the tune of 70%. No,
none of it's good.
None of mine are good either. That's the entire point. I've made thousands of these at this point. It's just there's so many. But yeah, the physical book is coming. It's 5e compatible. There's a lot of stuff that's written with some verbiage of 5e, but you could put it into anything. You could put it into everything. Also, I run the Etherlog, which is a narrative Dungeons and Dragons 5e podcast. That is kind of like Studio Ghibli meets Arcane. I'm very proud of it. We have yet to record a new session because we're figuring shit out. And finally, my baby is Spontaneum, which is my yes and improv Twitch stream that might be moving away from Dungeons and Dragons. I think everyone but Laura has been on it, unfortunately. So I mean, if you want to be on it, table's always open. But it's extremely chaotic. We got one tomorrow with a lot of good folks. Jennifer Kretschmer is on tomorrow. So I'm very excited for that, which is why I moved it to Wednesday.
We could literally do one with all the people here.
We could, yeah, on the spot. I'd be totally down to just off the cuff do something if I did not have to make Berber right after this. But
this is where I can bring my werewolf that only turns when they see a bare butt instead of the moon.
Yes. Yes.
Do not encourage her. Do not laugh at that shit.
Yes. No. Yes. Yes. Give me that now. Like yesterday.
But only a full moon. You can have a plumber's crack. It's only a full moon, right?
Right. Yeah. It has to be a full moon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Full moon. Gotcha.
All right, go find them.
That's my character ideas.
Go find them. Links are down below. Spontaneum's great. We're gonna get on out of here. We'll see you guys later. Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye,
everybody. Bye, everybody.